Hello, hello, and welcome. Thank you all for joining. Good to see you here. Wow, okay, I'm back. I am back at the studio. Things are back to normal around here, as normal as they can get. And yeah, looking forward to the stream today. We've got so much on the agenda. So we are going to we're gonna do a couple of things here. I'm going to talk about what I was up to at NAB since I've had a chance to catch up on that, really. Oh, shoot. Wrong mic. I did the thing where I forgot to reset all my buttons. We were on the camera mic because that's what I was doing for streaming from the remote feed. So okay, so let me show you what just happened. Yeah, that was a lot of reverb. Very tinny. That was the on-camera mic on the GH5 that is behind my teleprompter. That is why that sounded awful. The teleprompter back there, that's my camera. So what happens is when I was streaming from NAB, I had this is what I normally use as input 3. I don't know why I ended up that way. Input 3 is what I normally use for this camera, so all my presets are set to start the show on this angle, on this main camera angle. So when I was remote, I routed my RTMP server into this so that I could use all the same buttons. And then I was like, oh crap, but the audio. So I rerouted the thing to route the audio into from that because I needed the RTMP audio. And then I forgot to change the button back. Now that I'm here, because now I don't want the audio from input 3. So, okay. Yes, that was very roomy. Sorry about that. Okay, anyway. Yes, the quality went up by miles now that I have a real microphone on the stream. Graham says that's better, but still a bit of an echo, but that's because I'm watching this on the screens in the church with sound out via our mixer. So you've got like proper reverb, analog reverb going on there. That's great. Okay, so here's what the plan is for today. Today is the 2-year mark of me having done these live streams. And I think I only missed like 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. And but I made up for them with a couple extra ones. So I'm way over actually the 104 that it would have been. So this is actually number 133. This is live stream number 133. The first live stream was on April 30th, 2020. And we can take a quick peek back at those because they were before the studio was done. That was kind of fun. But I also want to talk about the stuff that happened at NAB. So both things I saw on the show floor, as well as, of course, the new ATEM Constellation HD models. And I want to talk about my experience filming stuff. What worked, what didn't work, streaming, what worked from the attempts I made at streaming from the show floor. And of course, we can talk a little bit about the stream I did just 2 days ago on Friday here with the fantastic lineup of all my guests on the show. Because that was a fun production to put together too, and came together, I will say, pretty last minute. So we'll talk about that as well. I do see a bunch of questions in here from that, so I will. I still have them, some of them here. So yeah, we can take a look at those. New gadget on the desk. That is if you mean this, it is the Epiphan Pearl Nano, which I had out because I was using it to stream to Photo Joseph's Pearl for the stream I did with him on Friday. That was the stream where we were recapping quickly about NAB, and I was pushing my video feed to him from that to his Pearl, and that's why that is out here now. I did unplug it because it is definitely audible fan compared to the ATEMs, for example. So I can have an ATEM up here and leave it powered on all the time because it is basically silent. This thing does have a fan that does make some sound. You probably wouldn't be able to hear it, but it bothers me, so I unplug it when I'm not using it. Which probably means I should just put it onto one of my automatic power switches so I can actually boot it up remotely. Okay, so Keith, yes. The conversation with Grant. So the first day of the conference, Sunday morning, right after I did my stream from the YOLO Box booth, I walked over to the Blackmagic booth and I was going to check out the new Constellation HDs because that news dropped when I woke up in the morning and I had no time to go explore yet because I was like, I gotta go set up for the stream. So I walked over there and Grant was just hanging out at the booth. So I just like went up to him and said hi and introduced myself and had a very nice conversation with him, which I wish I could have recorded because he's just a very nice guy and had a lot of great things to say. So the talked about like the motivations for the new HD line, talked about some of the other products. It was very nice. I wish I could have recorded it, but he very early on in the conversation had said explicitly that he is not doing very many video interviews at NAB this year because he's just tired. And at that point, I was like, well, now I can't ask if I can record this because that would just be weird. So yeah. Anyway, bits and pieces of that conversation, I'm sure will come back to me as we're talking about things. So it was a lot of fun. It was nice. Didn't expect to see him just hanging out. And yes, reminder, if you do want me to see your question in my question queue, please start your message with the letter Q, and that will put it into a separate column here so I can see it amongst the rest of the chat. Let's say hi to some people who are joining here. We've got Bart. Hi, thanks for joining. Sorry you couldn't make it to NAB this year, but hopefully all your other things went well. Maybe I'll see you next year. 133, right? And thanks Jamie for the congratulations. And oh yes, I wanted to say thank you for the super chat from Friday, since I didn't get a chance to on the stream on Friday. So thank you for that. That was from Friday's stream, and I didn't want to like interrupt the rest of the panelists with that because we were also broadcasting to everybody else's channel, and that would have just been awkward. Yes, I am also wondering if the Constellation HDs are silent. I did talk to some of the Blackmagic people at the booth. It was the ATEM folks. So it was they're the ones responsible for the ATEM, and I was giving them some feedback and asking them some questions about the specifics of things. And I did mention the fans, and I asked specifically if the Constellation HDs had the new fans that they've been using in the new HyperDecks, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the new HyperDecks compared to the original HyperDeck Mini, the fans are completely different. The original HyperDeck Mini, which I've had for ages, let's see, let me find it here. This is the, hopefully this button works. Okay. So the Studio HD Mini is the new one, and they've just discontinued the old one, but it looked exactly the same. I think one of the labels on the buttons is slightly different, but it is the one that is painted white in my rack next to the one that is not painted white. Those are the old and the new ones. So the old one has fans that are very loud, like audibly loud, just with the machine just on, not even doing anything. And I replaced the fans because I couldn't stand it in here. It was too loud. But the new ones, even this half rack, I don't have the full rack ones, but I do have both of these. And both of these, the fans are basically silent. I don't hear them, and they're quieter than the replacement fan that I did for the Video Hub even. So very happy with that. I asked specifically if they were using those in the new ATEMs, and the guy was like, oh, I don't know. The thermal guy isn't here. So apparently he was not on the hardware side, and the guy who manages the thermal management of the ATEMs did not come to the show. So we don't know for sure. But I would assume they do have the new fans, because why wouldn't they? So I'm crossing my fingers that they are, in fact, quiet. We'll find out soon enough as people start getting them. And the Petra has a Hyperdeck Shuttle HD. Now wondering if it's silent in Petra's show yesterday. That one I assume is, but hey, you should let us know because I am also curious about that. The looking to see if there's any other ATEM questions here. Okay, so let's talk about the ATEMs really quick. Yeah, new lineup here, new product lineup. I had been saying for ages that like we're probably going to see new rack mount ATEMs because there was a very obvious gap in their lineup, and sure enough, here they are. 1ME, 2ME, 4ME, all named Constellation HD, which is it's the bottom end of what was the only Constellation product before, which was a Constellation 8K. So this is, as expected, it's got a lot of the features that were in the ATEM minis, like the scalers, the new Fairlight, the new chroma keyer. Those bits and pieces have been added to the rack mixers, finally. So very excited to see that. I myself, and I'm sure many others, were a little bit surprised that there was no mention of any 4K models. So there is still a gap in the lineup. Let me zoom this out a bit. So if you look, there's the minis up on the top. There's the new HD constellations. Then they go down to the Constellation 8K. Then there's the older generation. This one's, I don't know why they're still listing this on the website. I don't think there is any point in ever buying this new at this point because it's $1,000, as is this one. And I don't think it does anything that you can't do in this one, except, of course, it's got the 4 HDMIs. So if you really care about that, this has 4 HDMIs, but it's missing all the other stuff. So then we got these 4Ks, which are the super old gen, and this is now, of course, the next one they're going to upgrade. I asked specifically about that at the booth, and of course, they're not going to tell me their plans for are they making a 4K, but like clearly they are. They were all very well press trained and knew how to give an answer on camera without answering the question in a way that would sound like an answer, but without actually revealing any plans. So they were very well trained for that, unfortunately. But it sounds like the impression I got was that there's just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of different priorities to balance. And it's just a matter of when these things get done and which to do first. So I do think it's interesting that they launched with the HD versions first. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I ended up actually trying to decide for myself, should I go with, should I get one at all, or should I wait for the 4K models? If I do get one, which version should I get? And went back and forth on it for a while. During the show, I was mostly convinced I was going to hold off until the 4K versions were released, because I'm not doing any 4K stuff here yet, but maybe I should. I don't know. I haven't, like, the only 4K, I've done a couple of videos in 4K, but it was before I started doing the multicam workflow. So it was just a lot more work of dealing with all that footage. So yeah, on the fence about it. And so I was on the fence about it. I knew I wasn't going to get this one. So the Constellation HD, the new 2/3 1ME, does not have Super Source. And that's a big, big omission. I feel like they should have put it in there because the ATEM Mini Extreme, for the same price, has Super Source. And now these two are kind of weird to be at the same price, but having kind of different functionality, because the ATEM Mini Extreme obviously also streams and records, and the Constellation HD is missing those, but more importantly, it's missing Super Source. So that's a big minus on that one for me, in my opinion. So yeah, for that, I would say it makes a lot of sense to jump up to the 2ME if you're even thinking about going into a rack form factor, because you get a lot more inputs and outputs, and you get the Super Source. So $700 is, it's almost twice the price, but it's also like not that much different compared to all the other, like this price jump is huge, right? $2,000 difference to jump up to the 4ME. So that's my take on that. But throughout the rest of the show, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, should I go for it? Should I wait for 4K? We don't know when that's going to happen. I'm guessing probably at the end of the year, but who really knows? Because everything is just a big question mark right now in terms of supply chain and everything. So don't know when I would be able to do that. And then am I going to want to record, publish my edited videos in 4K, stream in 4K, one or both or of those, or just use the 4K as a way to record higher res I can crop in on. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I don't need to make that jump right now. I'm probably not going to start streaming in 4K anytime soon. Most people are watching this on little screens anyway. Like, you're going to watch this on your phone, and HD is fine for that. Except for Graham, who's got it on the church projector. But yeah, I was thinking that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think for now, let's just stick with HD. It's good enough. I can keep doing that for a while. And then I was like, okay, 2ME or 4ME? And that's where the decision gets challenging. So let me jump in here. The biggest difference, here we go. The biggest difference is the number of inputs and, of course, the 4 buses versus 2 buses. But look how many inputs there are. So I started thinking, okay, $1,700, that's totally doable. I can manage that. I get 20 inputs and 12 outputs. One of the cool things about the outputs of the new Constellation HDs is that there's no dedicated program out. So on a lot of their other switchers, including actually, I think almost all of the rack mount ones have a dedicated program out. And the ATEM minis didn't do that. They let you switch both outputs, like the Extreme. You can configure both outputs. And they've done the same thing now on the SDI one, where all 12 of the outputs, you can choose any of the sources internally to go out on them. So the big caveat is it does not route audio. So there is only one audio bus in the whole thing. So it's not quite the same as an actual SDI matrix, but it's very, very close. So my thought was, because I actually mostly mix all my audio externally anyway, maybe I could actually get away with replacing my use of the SDI matrix with this. Because as I'm looking around, all of my screens around here are actually not connected to any of the devices directly. They're connected into the SDI matrix. That way I can choose what goes on what outputs at any given time. And I really like that. It's been super, super useful being able to do that. So that, if I had 12 outputs that I can use as anything, route any of the inputs, route a program out, route one as the multi-view or whatever, that would be super cool. So I started making a list of what are all the things that I want to plug into the inputs, where there's 20, what are all the ones that I want to plug into the outputs? And okay, this is where the big feature that I'm losing by going into the rack mount version. I don't actually care about the streaming feature built into the ATEM Mini Extreme anymore, because I actually have been streaming from a web presenter anyway. So this is, you're looking at the web presenter, output of the web presenter going to YouTube. And if you look at my multi-view of the ATEM Mini Extreme, which is mixing the show, you can see it's not streaming. That little thing in the corner is off, right? It's not streaming to YouTube because I've gone HDMI out into the web presenter. So I'm already doing that. But the thing I do like on the Extreme is the 8-channel recording. And that is something that you lose in the rack mount versions. There's no recording feature in these. So if I want to record any more than one feed, I need to use some of these outputs to go into a recorder of some sort. Now, the professional solution, the proper solution, is out to HyperDecks, where they're $500 each at least. Record those, and then they get time code and everything, so it's all easy to sync up later, but it's still on different SD cards. I really, really like the ISO recording, where it just all gets dumped onto an SSD, and I can just edit right off of that. So my thought was, why don't I keep the ATEM Mini Extreme as an ISO recorder and run these outputs into the ATEM Mini Extreme? So, did I get this diagram? I don't remember if I actually got this diagram finished enough to show anything that makes sense. Let me see if I have. Okay, yeah, this is incomplete, but it's good enough for the purposes of this discussion. So my thought was, let's take the Constellation HD, take 8 of the outputs, run them into the Video Hub SDI matrix, run 8 of those outputs into the ATEM Mini Extreme, and then I can still route those 8 into other places also. So if I don't care about recording for the moment of whatever I'm doing at a particular time, I'm not dedicating those 8 outputs into recorders. I can still send them back out to any of these other SDI outputs, including screens or whatever it was. And that's when I didn't finish diagramming this. So that was a thought. And then I started making a list of all the things to connect to the inputs. And of course, I've already got 20 inputs on the SDI matrix and it's already full. So then I was like, you know what? What if I just make this problem go away and stop having to dance around this and just get the big one with 40 SDI ins and 24 outs, and then just not use the SDI matrix anymore. Depending on how I end up dealing with audio, I might want to keep it around just for random things, but for the most part, I'm going to go all in on this, and this is going to be the core of the studio. So I don't currently have 40 things to plug in, which gives me some breathing room. And I also don't currently have 24 things to go out to. I will now use the first 8 to go into the ATEM Mini Extreme, so I can always record up to 8 of whatever I want that's going into the inputs. On the input side, one of the things that I've been doing for this show, and I was doing right before I started even, was the things that are going into my ATEM Mini Extreme with 8 inputs, I change those up a lot using the SDI matrix. So sometimes this camera is on input 2. Sometimes it goes somewhere else because I was using input 2 for something else earlier. And I have to end up rewiring it a ton. Rewiring. It's all in the matrix, so it's all electronic, but still it's like these things move around and I choose what goes into the ATEM Mini Extreme for the show. With the 40 inputs, my thought is, well, everything just gets a dedicated input. I don't have to worry about what input something is connected to at the moment because I've rewired it. So now I can just be like, okay, inputs 1 through 4 are my cameras. I've got my HyperDecks on 21 through 28 or whatever it is, and dedicate these inputs to the different devices around here and stop having to fiddle with the studio so much. So that is my plan. That is what I've done. I have placed a pre-order at DVE store for the 4ME, and I'm looking forward to it arriving at some point. Jason, thank you for the super chat, $6 for the Big Constellation HD fund. Fantastic. Now it costs me only $3,689. Lovely. Thank you so much. Cool. So that's the deal. So let me look at the chat here since I had that on a different screen. Will I record to the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO? Yes. So my plan is 8 of those channels out, get sent directly to the ATEM Mini Extreme. That is then my ISO recorder, because again, it's the cheapest way to get 8 channels of recording. And yeah, it is H.264 compressed, so it's not the best quality, but it's perfectly fine in my opinion. It's great cost save to use it as the matrix, 2 more SDI converter racks. I'm actually going to be able to get rid of a lot of the SDI converters in here because most of them are being used because I have to go HDMI into the Extreme and things like that. So I'm still going to need 8, of course, to go into the Extreme. But, and I still need a bunch for under the table here because I have HDMI devices around here. Of course, my cameras are HDMI, so I still am going to need a bunch of them. But I will be able to move them into more dedicated roles, I guess, and not have them as part so much of the core workflow. Yeah, what 8 SDI to HDMI switcher? No, so that's just going to be the stack of converters. Will I be selling hundreds of these converters? Probably not. I think I'm still going to need a bunch. Petra says my idea is exactly the same, but then with 20 in and 12 out. Yeah, and that's honestly probably fine for most people. And I was originally going to do that, and then I just started making a list, and I was like, you know what? It's really frustrating when you've done all this work and then you run out of space. And I didn't want to have to run out. I didn't want to run out of space again. So I think the 40 will last me for a while. Famous last words. John says, I ended up getting the ATEM 2ME Constellation HD and plan to use the ATEM Mini Pro ISO for ISO records. That ends up being more than enough for my average video shoot. Yeah, and honestly, for most video shoots, I don't actually record 8 cameras anyway, so that is definitely fine. It's really just that I end up just messing around with so much stuff in here that I have so many different things that send video signals in. Like, I've got the Pearl Nano here, and the reason it's on my desk here on the table here and not like permanently in the rack is because I just don't have enough inputs in the rack to just have it always wired up. Now I would. Now I can always just leave it there and dedicate one SDI feed in and have its HDMI go back out into the ATEM so I can show it on the stream more often. Yep. I'm in the same situation, thinking of changing my order to a 4ME and not use the noisy 20x20. Also, replace the fans because that thing is obnoxiously loud, and then it gets a little bit better. But yeah, I think it's a good call. So why not extract at the input side? I thought about that too. So if we go back to the diagram here, one of the other options would have been to put the matrix on the input side. I think that I don't remember why I chose to do it this way first, but I essentially just decided to make this diagram this way first, and then by the time I was done, I thought through and I was like, I'm just going to do the 4ME instead. And then I didn't bother doing the exercise of what would it look like if the video hub were on the other side of it, on the input side. So it could definitely work that way too. I don't know which way is better. Yeah, now I'm converting SDI to HDMI again. So cool. Great thoughts on the new 4ME. I would do the same. Oh, good question. Is there much of an advantage using the web presenter or Epiphan over the Extremes live stream feature? So the reason, this is again getting back into why I'm going with the 40 input version. The main reason that I am doing that I'm using the web presenter and not streaming from the ATEM Mini Extreme right now is, let me go and show you this diagram, which is more or less the current setup. So this is more or less what I'm using right now. It's not exact, and I've ignored the video hub because it's not wired in there properly. ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. This is where everything's doing the work of cutting angles, doing the super source layouts. That's sort of the core of it. But I don't stream to YouTube from that. One of the reasons is because I often do actually end up with 8 inputs of various kinds. So that could be a camera, a HyperDeck, my computer screen, an iPad, whatever it is. Like, there's a lot of stuff on here, right? And I do actually end up for these kinds of live streams pretty quickly filling up 8, or at least 6, sometimes 7 or 8. If I wanted to, okay, that's the main camera switching. The other part of what goes on these streams is showing the comments. I need to bring in the comments into the show somehow. If I were to do it in the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO with one of the downstream keys, I would use up at least 1, but probably 2 of the inputs to do the proper key and fill. That brings me down to 6. And then if I also want to use a HyperDeck for the Stinger transition, that's another 2. So now I'm down to 4. And that would mean I would really only have 4 usable inputs in the Extreme. So instead what I do is I go out from the Extreme into another ATEM, the Television Studio HD, because I had it, because I bought it ages ago and wasn't doing anything. So that goes into input 1 here, and then what do the SDIs do in the Television Studio HD? It's HyperDeck for the Stinger, and it's the Ultra Studio 4K, which is doing the graphics from OBS. And that way I'm not eating up 4 of the inputs on the Extreme. And then this doesn't have any streaming feature built in, of course, so I go out from the program out into the web presenter, and that's what's doing the stream. So that's the flow. And essentially what this means is I won't need to do this anymore because I will have enough inputs and layers and everything in the 4ME to do the whole thing in there. And I'll be able to get rid of the Television Studio HD, and these 2 things will go directly into the main ATEM, and then I won't have to have the separate devices as all part of the flow here. So yeah, once I get that wired up, I probably will be selling my ATEM TV Studio HD for a very, very cheap price because it is very old, but still works perfectly fine. I also did upgrade the fans in it, so it is also quiet. And then depending on how things go, I may end up selling the Matrix 2, which also has the better fans. So keep an eye out if you are interested in purchasing those from me. You can probably bury the Extreme in a rack, control recording via Stream Deck, and access the files via FTP. Totally. That is actually basically what I'm doing right now. It's attached to my rack, so it's just sitting there on the front, hanging off. I actually bolted my stand to the rack there, and it just hangs out there. I like that better than like tucking it in, so at least I can see the buttons on it. And then it also, I don't know if you can tell, but there is actually a USB cable. No, you can't see it. There's a USB cable kind of dangling out from the bottom, which I plug a hard drive into. And I do actually like recording on that drive and then just taking the drive to edit from. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, okay. Every key fill is twice the number of SDI connections and converters as compared to a regular video source that adds quickly. Exactly. So that's why, yeah, if I want any key fill graphics in my 8 input ATEM, it eats those up pretty quick. And yes, this is a very good point. To get ISO with audio, you'll need to keep the matrix. And this is the one flaw with my current plan of just routing the 8 SDIs directly out from the Constellation, is that they will be the same audio on all the tracks. That said, almost all the time I've used it and used the ISO recording feature, I have only ever used one audio mix, and I've just taken the main audio track and that goes into my video. So I haven't ever actually used or taken advantage of the fact that I get separate audio tracks on the ISO recordings when I've been using it for the last 5 months. So, but yes, that is true. And that's if I decide that's important enough, I might end up keeping the matrix and doing what I diagrammed a little bit earlier ago, which is combine the two. So combine the aux outs and the matrix. I think I have to do it before in that case. Don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So many wires to think about. But yeah, if I wanted to be able to route separate audio sources into the ATEM for recording, I would need a matrix so that the inputs can be switched. But again, I don't know how important that actually is for what I do here. The other way to go is just like totally go all digital audio and use those fancy digital audio things that I have no experience with. So, yeah. Okay. Don't forget the 2 super sources, and what I've heard, you can super source mix together so you can get an 8 window program out. Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. You can do the same with the small one. Use the outputs like aux. Do you mean the small Constellation HD? I believe so. Let me just double check here. So if we look at the back side, yeah. So it's got the dedicated multi-view, but the other 6 are generic, essentially aux outputs. So you can choose what to use all 6 of them for. So that is a cool thing compared to, this is, I guess, one of the biggest differences between this and the ATEM Mini Extreme is that there are 10 inputs and 6 outputs, as opposed to 8 and 2. But I really feel like they should have added Super Source into that, because that's just it's such a good feature. And we've seen they can do it on the cheaper hardware. So, yeah. What made them make the Constellation HD before the 4K? I actually want the ME2. I mean, nobody really knows. My suspicion, and this is based in just the conversations I had there, that they clearly could not tell me anything real, explicit information about it. My suspicion is that it was just a design challenge and a timing question of sourcing all the parts. Doing 4K is a lot more processing, so it's a lot more work to keep it cool. And it is more chips, all the chips have to be bigger. So I think that's the reason, is that they were able to get the HDs out now. I don't know, maybe they had originally wanted to launch them all at the same time, but then just the supply chain issues meant they couldn't get the 4Ks out, so they did the HDs anyway. Who knows? Like, I'm just making stuff up. But that's my suspicion, is that they really could only get the HD versions done in time. And the other reason I think that is because they didn't include it in their big live stream, and they didn't do a big fanfare announcement about it. Like, they dropped those just with the press release on Sunday morning, first day of NAB. They didn't do their normal live stream where they do the fancy announcements. So I think I think that's why. I'm sure they'll do a bigger deal, make a bigger deal out of it when they do the 4K versions, because that will be huge. Keith, thank you for the super chat. My investment in the training on the new Matrix constellation. Yeah, so this is yeah, thank you for that. And this is actually going to be a whole new thing to learn, because there are a lot of new things that I haven't yet played with on these devices. The TV Studio HD, the old one, and the ATEM minis are all essentially one MEs, which is one bus of like a mix where you can create, you know, you can use upstream keys on that layer. Do I have my little layer graphic? I don't know if I still have that around here. I think it's gone now. But actually it might be in here. Yeah. So if where is that? We're going to go super source. We're going to change. I have buttons for this now. Super source box 2 is media player. There we go. So this is how I've kind of been describing how the ATEM works. It's in layers. So you've got your input select buttons, which is that bottom layer. You've got your upstream key, which lets you take another video source as a layer and then either scale it or remove things from it, make it partially transparent. So you can use chroma key or luma key to remove parts of that layer so you can see through it, or you can shrink the whole thing down and crop it to use it as a picture-in-picture. That lets you do like the circle effects and things like that. And then the top layer is the downstream key, and that is there's no scaling option, but there's a luma key option, so you can use it for overlaying graphics. And with this is a 1ME where you've just got the one of these. With the 2ME and the 4ME, there are more than one of these, and then you can feed them into each other. So that's where, like, I've used one like 1 or 2 times when I had access to a bigger switcher at some other venues, but I don't have a ton of experience with this. So that's going to be a whole new thing to learn and share about and teach you about. So come with me on that ride, because that's going to be fun of figuring out how to chain these all together. I guess it's kind of like having multiple ATEMs all in one box, because I was doing this on even the first live stream, chaining 2 ATEM minis to get 8 or 7 inputs. But yeah, that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. What am I? Where am I going? Back to here. Okay. The ME has max frames for a Stinger as well. No one talks about it. Yeah. So that's the other cool thing. They've got a media player with actual storage for animations. So if you look at the specs here, I believe even the 1ME, let's go look at the smallest one. It's got frame. Okay, where is it? Oh my gosh. Standards. Here we go. Color generator. No, my gosh, where is it? The media pool. There it is. Media player. 2 media players, 20 images on that one. But then here we go. Media pool clip capacity. 2 clips up to 1080p 60, 400 frames. In 720 HD, 200 frames in 1080. And if we go look at this one, we've got 400 frames in 1080. And the 4ME has room for 600 frames in 1080. That means you can actually load up animations to use as stingers, so I can even remove one of the hyperdecks from my workflow now, because that hyperdeck is pretty much only used for this. And that's kind of a lot of equipment to use just for that. But I've got that one clip on that SD card. Sometimes I put in other clips on that, but basically never. That's how the show opens and things like that. So I can now use the actual media player clip for that, which is going to be great. I can free up another input and free up that hyperdeck to do other jobs now. Super cool. Are you going to add more stream decks with the 4ME to not lose track of what it's doing? We're going to find out. I don't know. So right now I'm using just the one stream deck and I have a bunch of different pages on it to do different things. I don't use the stream deck like a control panel where all of the buttons are always available. I actually mostly use it for shortcuts for things. Let me see if I can get this in the overhead camera to show you what it's got right now, sort of. So probably too small to read any of the text, but these 8 are my 8 inputs on the ATEM. That's why they're laid out like this, and that's why they're colored like that. And I've actually got the super source button there too. But then most of these are multiple actions. They don't correspond to any particular ATEM action. So this is like show the little question thing at the bottom. This is the hide chat button. These are my show pre-roll and start buttons. And then I've got other pages like this, but then I do have a couple of pages where it's like, here's my SDI matrix control. And here is setting what goes out of the outputs of the ATEM mini. So I can choose, for example, to show on HDMI out 2, which is going to the web presenter, I can show the multi-view instead. So that's how I'm using this. And I do navigate between these pages pretty quick during the show as I'm mixing things. So we'll see if I decide I need another one just to manage all 40 inputs. Media player in the Constellation would not add your audio effect on the Stinger. I thought they did, but I'm not 100% sure, so we're going to find out. I did think they had an audio feature as part of that for exactly that purpose, though. I keep my fingers crossed that they'll retrofit the animation support into the Extreme firmware. There is that Stinger button, so there's a reason for it. I know, that's one of those things like, what does that button do? Because it doesn't do anything right now. Yep. Does that mean only one media player and one still image player that would limit me with SuperSource backgrounds and still use lower thirds and play Stinger? No, I think there's a bunch of them. So there's 4 media players in the 4ME. But this is what I mean. Oh yeah, media pool audio file format. There it is. It does support audio on these for sure. So that's great. I can still use the audio effect on that. We're gonna find out how that works because, like I said, I haven't used this before. But yeah, we will find out. 4 media pool clips. So I think you're limited by the number of frames, but they don't have to be all in one clip. I'm gonna stop speculating because we're gonna try it when I actually get a hold of that, and then we can see how it goes. And I'll be able to still show you the multi-view of it because I can just route one of the SDI outs back in into the thing. So it'll be fun. Yeah. Jim says, was your conversation with Grant off the record or do you know stuff? So it wasn't I didn't set up time with him to interview him on camera. So it was not a on-camera interview. Like I did actually have a conversation on camera with somebody else from Blackmagic, which I'm going to edit together. But obviously he knows anything he says at the expo hall is like going to get out in public. So he was very careful to not make any promises about future products, right? So it wasn't on or off the record. It was just, we were chatting and he was very careful to not promise things in the future. So yeah. Dan, thanks for joining. I think you haven't been here in a while. No question, just want to say hello and thank you for all the great info. Thank you for stopping by. So, here's a good question from Hans. Is there a chance it's possible to add streaming to the new ATEM devices via a software update? I suspect not. One of the reasons is I think that's a dedicated chip that goes into it. It's the one they use in the web presenter and in the ATEM Mini Extreme. I think it's a dedicated chip. I don't think it's part of the main FPGA processing that does the rest of the work in the ATEM. The other reason I don't think so is because that would essentially, they would be cutting sale. They would be eating into the market of their own product, the web presenter, which is clearly meant to be the streaming encoder for rack mount ATEMs. And the other reason I don't think it's possible is because, or I don't think they would do it, is because, again, it's a heat issue. Like, I think they are trying very, very hard to keep the heat generation down. They mentioned it a lot, and everybody I talked to just kept mentioning that. So I think they would add too much additional processing to go and to add that into the mix. So, yeah. John Esteron, great to catch things live. Well, see you later. Have a good evening. Sorry, you're gonna miss the little poll I do with your tool, but catch it on the replay. I'm gonna try that out here in a bit. Oh, and I missed the super chat earlier from Chris. Thank you. Any tips on scaling ATEM Extreme SuperSource when I connect iOS phones via HDMI? I get horrible color shearing when I scale them down. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I've had that problem. So I use my Mac screen is plugged into this. Does it look okay? Like, I hope it looks okay because this is a scaled down computer screen. And I've put my iPad into here as well, so I don't have it. Oh, I guess I can. Let me see. Let's do my. What am I gonna put on the screen? It's just my home screen really quick. SuperSource Box 2 gets the iPad. So here's the iPad scaled down. How does it look? I don't know. I mean, yeah. I haven't noticed that. Sorry. Gerhard says there is room for the Constellation Pro and Pro ISO models. I really doubt we would see another HD version of the Constellation. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. Okay, what's the best way to stream to YouTube and Facebook from the ATEM Minis or ATEM MEs? Web presenter only sends to one destination. Oh yeah, I mean that's a classic problem with most of these things. You'll need some sort of restreaming service in the mix. So Restream.io is a cloud solution for that. You can run your own on a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't take really any CPU power. It just takes network bandwidth. So if you have the bandwidth for it, doing it from your studio, you can push up multiple streams through some sort of restreaming encoder. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi. It takes a little bit of work to set it up, but it's doable. Otherwise, yeah, Restream.io or any of those cloud services will do it too. Or stick a YOLO box on the end and use the YOLO box to stream up to multiple places. That works too. Okay, speaking of, we're just rambling on about the ATEMs. Let's switch gears and talk about one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which was a little bit about the oh wait, okay, one last question before we do that, because Michael says, do the configurable outputs on the Constellations let you send multi-view, or is that on one output and that's it? So very good question. I had that same question. Unfortunately, I had the question too late. So when I was at the booth, I forgot to check this because yeah, there are dedicated multi-view outputs that you can't change. There's the 4 multi-views, but the SDI outputs do let you choose what goes out on all of them from, in their words. Let me see if I can find it. They say, okay, here's what they say. You can independently route any SDI input or any internal source. And that says to me, yes, the multi-view is part of that because they are an internal source. Also, Doug Johnson posted a comment on his video answering the same question, and he said he did confirm it, but I didn't see it actually in the video. And what I went back to look at my footage from this, because I did record a little bit of the models they had on the floor, and unfortunately, I didn't quite get it all in frame, so the rest of that drop-down menu of the output is not in my video. So like, you know, when you're on the ATEM Mini, you go into this, and down at the bottom, there's multi-view. The video that I had ended about here, so I couldn't see that in my own video of it. But I'm pretty sure they do, and I'm really counting on it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do some more fancy tricks to route this up. Yeah. Good question. So we'll find out. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the panel on Friday, because I got a bunch of questions about that. Yeah, we're going to do this. Okay, that's my little bookmark. I want to talk a little bit about the panel because I got some questions from this stream on Friday about how this works. How is it being put together with 8 people? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, on Friday I had a very lovely conversation with a bunch of other creators on YouTube, and we were chatting about live streaming and, in particular, live selling.
Amazing.
So this was the stream, and as you can see, there's 8 of us all here chatting and having a conversation. And I didn't get a ton of time to talk about how this was working because that wasn't the focus of the show. So I want to go a little bit into the behind the scenes of this, of how this works. So if you noticed, it started off with the countdown timer that I normally have, and then we jumped into the show with the 8 of us, and people were joining, dropping out throughout the hour. I also was able to show graphics and stuff. So I think by the end there were 6 of us that 7 of us, and then 6 by the end. So and then at the end, outro to this. So okay, how did I do this? This was most of the hard work was done by StreamYard. So StreamYard is the one that was doing this layout, and I was also able to, full screen on one person. You might recognize the little things in the corner. And that was doing most of the hard work of bringing in the remote guests, doing that mix, and with that background, because I just didn't want to fuss with things. And I didn't actually know how many people we were going to have until right before we started. So at the last second, Carlos joined. Didn't expect him on at first, so that's why he wasn't in my promos about it. And I hadn't actually confirmed with everybody until just the night before. So, if I had tried setting up SuperSource, I would be first of all limited to 4 boxes, and then have to use upstream keys for the rest of them, and it would have been a lot of scripting required to get that to work. So I was like, you know what? Let's just keep it simple. We'll use StreamYard. But I don't really like pushing from StreamYard straight to YouTube because it's a little bit challenging to manage the actual start and end of the show. So they have their own little countdown timer, but it's essentially just playing a video clip, and it will it does mute everybody automatically, and then it when the countdown runs out, it cuts back to the main screen and unmutes everybody. So it does work. I use it for my work stream with Vittorio, but I wanted to be able to do a little bit more. So that StreamYard was actually pushing into my studio, into one of the inputs in the ATEM. And that, since I know you're probably curious, I believe I have a link to that down in the description. Let me just double check. No, I don't. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now. The device that's doing that is the Magewell Pro Convert. Mine is the NDI to SDI, but they have models with HDMI. And so this is NDI to SDI. And that just means that it has the option for NDI. It's not only NDI. So it also receives RTMP. It's one of the few devices that can actually receive a RTMP feed as a server rather than something that just pulls RTMP. So that's why I like it. And that was, StreamYard was just pushing to that port forward through my router into the studio, and then I was able to use my regular countdown graphics and cut the show like that normally. One of the weird things about that is I was on a delay. So because I was joining the StreamYard call also, my mic had to go into StreamYard, and then StreamYard pushes down to my studio. So I was hearing myself on a half a second, or no, it was 2 seconds delay. So I had to not wear headphones most of the time, or rather the headphones I was wearing were connected to the computer so I could hear the call, not my actual program mix. And it also meant that to start the show, I had to very carefully time it. So as the countdown timer runs out, all our videos are 2 seconds behind. So as soon as the timer hits 2, I can hit, I start talking, even though it's not actually hit my ATEM yet, because then 2 seconds later, it's going to hit the ATEM. So I hit the cut, at the 0 mark, but I had to start talking 2 seconds earlier. And I just practiced it a couple times before we started, and it worked. So I thought that was pretty cool, a good way to do it. And the other reason I did that was because I was pushing to a bunch of different YouTube feeds. I was pushing to all their channels. Some were YouTube. One was LinkedIn. I think, did I have a Facebook in there or not? I can't remember if I had somebody's Facebook in there or not anymore. And in order to do that, it would have been, I would have had to have the most expensive StreamYard plan in order to add all the different RTMP endpoints. Because if you don't go through RTMP, you have to actually log in to your YouTube account, which means they would have all had to add me as like managers of their YouTube account, which I didn't want to do. So I just had them all send me stream keys, and I pushed it into my own server here at the studio, which is running Nginx. So my web presenter pushed to my server. My server pushes to all 8 channels. And that was 6 megabits times 8, which is about 50 megabits, which thankfully I have the bandwidth for, so it worked fine. No transcoding happening in there. It's just copying the bits. So there was no CPU usage on that machine at all. But I did have to have the bandwidth to push up 8 6 megabit streams, which it worked fine. So that was cool. Yeah, it worked well. It worked really well. And it was a great conversation. I think I would, StreamYard is just still the easiest way to get all those people together in a stream. Video.Ninja is also very close to that, but you end up having just a little bit more fiddling to do with that. So that's why I just always end up using StreamYard for it, because it just means I don't have to worry about it really. Pushing to each participant's YouTube feeds, I was impressed with that level of detail. Oh yeah, and that reminds me, the other half of this was the chat. So I wanted to show chat messages on the streams, right? And I like doing that, but we're pushing to 8 different channels, which means we have 8 different possible places chat messages can appear. So here is a chat message on the screen from somebody who was not on my channel. They were watching on a different channel. And the way that worked was I was using my own chat extension, chat pop-up extension. So if I go, I don't think it works on it doesn't work on a not live, but if I go to this stream and open this one up, let's make sure the audio is muted, and then go and pop out this chat. Oh, I've got 2 of the extensions running. I need to turn one off. Well, whatever, you get the idea. Ignore the fact that there's 2 of them overlapping. It's because there's 2 versions of the extension running on this computer. So what I did was I loaded this up for each of their YouTube videos. And I had my screen full of them, like, over and over again, like side by side like this. And that's what I was looking at. And then with the get overlay URL, I can take this into OBS. So I take this link and I add 8 of them into OBS. So I just made a bunch of different copies of different browser sources and just had 8 layers stacked on top of each other of the full screen chat window. And then when I click on one, it would pop up in OBS, regardless of whose channel it came from, because yeah, it worked great. The other reason I did it this way, again, as opposed to doing it the way that I actually run my own channel, is because the way that I run the comments for this show is actually by getting API access to YouTube. And that is, if I show you a little sneak peek behind the scenes here, this is what I'm looking at when I'm running this. So I can see the question queue is filtered here. This is for me to add things to if I don't want to miss one, and I'm usually bad about that, but I've got a little button here where I can just add things over into that column. So that will let me make sure I don't miss those in case they scroll by. And the super chat's over here. So Thor, thank you for that. More for the future Constellation training. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So this is my view of my chats for this stream, but the only reason this works is because I actually have API access to YouTube. This wouldn't work from just scraping the screen. But I didn't want to have API access to everybody's YouTube channels. So I did want to just scrape the screen for those, and it worked fantastically. It worked totally great. Yeah, 8 of the chat channels were routed. And oh, thank you, Monty, for joining here. Did an awesome job hosting and running that live stream. Thanks, I appreciate it. We should do more together sometime because I know you've got a lot more tips you can share for everybody here. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of things to keep track of, being the host of the show, also running the switching, also running the comments. Kind of realized it might be a little bit too much for one person. I might need to bring in some more people to help next time I do something like that, because it was a lot. So yeah. Oh, thanks. That's clever. I was wondering how you're doing that. And that's why some comments were overlaid with each other. Yeah, so what it did mean is because there were essentially 8 web pages stacked, if I forgot to press the hide chat button on one window, and if I showed a different comment, it would just show up over it because they weren't actually connected to each other. Normally, when I'm just doing it in one window, if I click a new message, the old one goes away. But the windows didn't talk to each other because there were just 8 different ones. Yeah, so okay, it'd be great to get support for Twitch and Facebook stream chat at some point. I have decided I'm not going to do that in my extension because it's a lot of work. Also because Steve beat me to it. Let me grab this link. Chat.overlay.ninja. He took the extension and just gutted it and then added exactly that. So he has a whole, like this, that's why it looks the same, because we all are using the same CSS for it. But he went and did it. So it supports all these platforms, and you can just go use his. His does work differently. It only supports the overlay option. It does not support the option where you bring it into the same window, which I still do use sometimes, just to, like if I'm going to be cropping the screen and like doing chroma key. But it does work. So it's made for OBS. Yeah, so go use his. There's no point in me recreating it to work with all these things. So you can just use his now. That one live panel, you could use that as your demo reel for future live event side gigs. I just might if I ever decide to go start doing that again. Okay, other questions about that panel situation. Have you got any info on RTMP server on Nginx setup? Sort of. I don't have like a proper restream tutorial for Nginx, but I can show you the bulk of the work is done the same way that you would set up the receiving end of that. So here's a tutorial that I wrote a while ago. That link is in the chat. What this tutorial is for is essentially making a equivalent of a streaming bridge in a Raspberry Pi, where it receives a stream and then outputs it over HDMI. So it turns out most of the setup for this is the same as then rebroadcasting that feed to other places. It's just instead of playing it out over HDMI. So this one, like blah, 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 install the OS, et cetera, et cetera. I'll change all the settings. This is the key here. It's when you create this is the line that outputs over HDMI. And instead of that, you have a line that copies the stream up to a different RTMP or a different push endpoint. Let me star out. Did I already close it? I did. I have the actual config I used for that somewhere in here. And if I star out all the stream keys, although hopefully they're all deleted now. Let's see. I will copy this into a text file so I can show you, and then I can blank out all the stream keys to show you what it looks like. So we've got, sorry for this, taking a little bit of time. Okay. And then I will just go exit out on everybody's so that you can see exactly what it looked like to push to everybody's feeds. So, and okay. So now I can show this on the stream. This is actually what it looked like. So I have a input. This is essentially the stream key on the way in, and my web presenter was streaming to this server on that port with that stream key, and then instead of that line from the blog post, you do this. You say push to whatever RTMP URL you get. So I just had one of these for each person's channels, and then they had set up the stream on their end. And yeah, it was eight different channels that I was pushing to, including my own. So the web presenter pushes to this Nginx server, and this pushes it back out. I don't know if you can do that much bandwidth on a Raspberry Pi. It would probably be getting pretty close to the limit of... No, it has gigabit, so it should be able to do it, because there's no CPU involved. It's just bits in, bits out. So it's just network bandwidth. And I believe the new Raspberry Pi 4 has gigabit, if I remember correctly. If not, 100 megabits is then close to the 50 this needs. So that might be iffy. But for going to like 2 places, totally would work fine on a Raspberry Pi. Oh yeah, so then the other thing is OMX player is only needed if you want to output it over HDMI. If you are, and I'm not happy with the other alternatives people have been suggesting, VLC can replace it, sort of. The problem with VLC is that it has to boot up in the X Windows, whereas OMX player did not. So I don't like that option. You don't need OMX player to do the restream. OMX player was only if you're trying to get it out the HDMI port. So if you're just using it as a restream server to copy one feed to multiple places, you don't need to worry about that. Just skip the whole OMX player bits. If you do want OMX player, you have to just download the old version of Raspberry Pi. For now, I haven't bothered looking into it lately either. Thanks for that link to the chat overlay. Ninja, I've been searching for eons for this chat extension that will work for Facebook Live. Yep, that'll work great. Cool. Have I tried Restream Studio? Are the big benefits of StreamYard over Restream Studio? I tried it once. I haven't got super familiar with it, and so that was the other reason I just jumped into StreamYard, was because I wasn't confident about using Restream Studio. And again, we threw this together pretty last minute. We had all just come back from an AB. It was my first day back in the studio afterwards. Like, I just wanted fewer variables. And yeah, I mean, it went better than I expected, honestly. Like, things didn't break like they normally do. So, yep. Multi-chat user version of your chat plugin for panel discussions on your channel. Maybe, although, yeah, I don't know how I would want to do that. Probably what I should do is make it easier to, oh, now that I'm thinking about it, I could have done that. The way this works, let me go show you on the live again. If you're on this and you go pop out chat, okay, I just need to get rid of one of the, hold on. I need to get rid of the duplicate extension. One of these. Let's try this again. Pop out chat. Okay. So if we're looking at the pop out chat, and then you click get overlay URL, what this does is it just makes up a random number, a random string up here, and that is essentially how these two windows talk to each other. So what I could have done, now that I think about it, was opened up everybody's pop-out chat with the same random string up here. So if you go visit this link right now, like literally this link, if you go open this up on your own computer, like what it does is it looks like this, right? Which is then for OBS. As soon as I click any of these, they pop up there, because what it does is this window sends a message with this ID that this window is listening to. So if I had multiple of these windows on different streams, they could, in fact, all push to the same window, which would have been smarter than adding 8 OBS windows, which I just now thought of literally right now. So yes, what I would need to do for to like properly support multi YouTube streams for this extension would be to basically make a way to do that is less hacky than copying and pasting these URLs. But you totally can do it right now. So if I just type in somebody else's video ID here, their chat shows up here, but it's got the same thing after the pound sign. So it'll go to the same window. So you can try that right now if you want. But yes, I should make that better supported. Because probably not the last panel will do. Okay, any other questions about this? Otherwise, we're going to move on again because we just blown right past. The time is just flying by. StreamYard will do only webcam type stream. Wait, StreamYard. Oh, here's the correction. StreamYard will do webcam streams. Restream will do more different things. Yeah. Now I need to double check. Let me see if I'm logged in. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother. I can get into the Restream Studio. StreamYard, everybody joins from a webcam. You can add your screen share separately, and you now can add a second camera yourself, which is cool. So that's cool. Restream Studio is very, very similar. Restream Studio is completely different from the main Restream product. So Restream Studio is essentially their answer to StreamYard. So if let me get the right camera in here. We're going to do that capture card. It is also limited to 480, I'm seeing, or 720 rather, defaulted to 480. Now the camera froze. Unplugged. Why did that get unplugged? Here it is. No, gosh. Okay, there it goes. It's working. So I don't know why it's stuck at 480. Restream Studio looks very similar to StreamYard. Invite guests. You can, share a link. Invite up to 6 guests on the free plan. I didn't pay for the pro on this one. But this is the biggest difference with Restream Studio is that you can also add a RTMP source. You can't do this on StreamYard. So you have to upgrade company plans only. So that's not even just the pro version. What this would let you do though is stream from they're saying like Zoom, but also any RTMP stream into StreamYard or into Restream Studio as one of the sources, which is very cool. And then I'm assuming it will just show up like any of these sources where you can then do any of the fancy layouts and stuff with the RTMP source too, which is very cool. So yeah, definitely different features, but like I said, I wasn't familiar enough with this to trust myself to just do that show that way. So yeah. Restream Studio will bring in RTMP sources, so you can bring in the YOLObox stream and can do up to 1080 on any sources. Yeah. StreamYard is probably more mature. I've been doing this multi-participant panel stuff for a very long time. They just got acquired, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but it seems like so far things are going well with that. Thanks, Keith. ATEM 1ME Constellation HD has scaled inputs like the ATEM Extreme. Yes, so it has the reclocking and scaling. I think it only supports 720 and 1080 options, but you don't have to worry about the frame rates within that. So it's not like a full-on scaler, but yeah, it's like the ATEM Mini Extreme. And the 1ME does have that. We go look at the specs. Where is it? Frame rate and format converters. So yeah, all 10 inputs. Are there any HyperDecks or such that can record the program out and be used as a playback device at the same time? Not that I know of. That's pretty unusual to have something work that way, I would say. Yeah, cool. Didn't get YouTube event reminder, missed it until now. Well, sorry. YouTube is just a mess with notifications. Okay. So many pieces to juggle. Great job. Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot. Honestly, probably should have had somebody else help with that. Wearing many hats. Keith says Hyperdeck shuttle conversation with Grant. Did you ask about two more versions on the way with Phil and Key as well as 4K? I don't think I did. I definitely didn't get a concrete answer. I don't even think I asked about the shuttle, future shuttle plans. I only asked about future ATEM plans. Yeah. I would like to see a dual HDMI out though for that. I think that'd be cool. You could also bring a YOLO box into StreamYard, but would need a PC laptop with a webcam out. Yeah, so that's very, very different from pushing our TMP feed, which I think is a lot nicer. Okay, moving on. Oh, Sam, thank you for the super sticker. Does that show up right? It doesn't. I need to update my chat situation here. I just went over to the live to look at it. It's very cute. That's what it looks like. Thank you very much. We don't get the little confetti. I can do that over here. Yay! Okay. Thanks. Apparently, I need to update my chat to handle super stickers. Well, thank you for that. Congrats and thanks for 2 years of streaming. I feel like I owe you royalties for my live stream bigs. Oh, I'm glad it's going well for you. That's awesome. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just keep showing up here and keep asking questions. That's how we do it. And Keith, yeah, thank you as well. Congrats on 2 years of live streaming, and you've grown yourself and thousands of others in that season. It's appreciated, and I hope I made mine clear. Thank you for that. Yeah, it has been an adventure. Let's take a quick look back. I pulled up the first video, the first live stream I did, which was April 30th, 2020, which was about almost 2 whole months after I had to start doing everything virtually and could not travel for work anymore. And that's when I was like, I'm here anyway, I might as well just start jumping on this live stream thing. And yeah, the countdown timer looks a little bit different. That was just like my iPad countdown app slapped in there with the upstream key. But I think it's, oh, my hair was already getting long because I couldn't get a haircut for a while. The desk, where was my desk? I wanted to look at oh yeah, the way I was doing the chat too was just taking the YouTube chat window and just putting it into the screen before I got all fancy. This is what the desk looked like before. Also, you can barely tell because I had the lights way down, but the walls in here are unfinished. So it's the same room I'm in now, but there was no paint on the walls. There was actually the drywall was just untextured still. It was just the raw drywall. I think one of the walls was missing drywall. The floor was just plywood. But yeah, right from the beginning, I didn't realize, but right at the beginning, I started off with the 2 ATEMs. So I had the one that was streaming. You can see the little red lights on over there, and the other one was fed into that as this one, which I was using for the countdown clock, which I could then change to multi-view. So I could show on the stream fiddling with the ATEM, which has been the theme of this show. Somewhere in here is where I jump over to that. Yeah, here it is. So that little picture-in-picture window is the other ATEM, and here we go. Here's the multi-view of it. So this was how I was then showing stuff on the stream, right? I can mess with this ATEM. It's not the one doing the encoding, and I can cut between those, do picture-in-pictures, and show you how it works. And that's just been the theme of how I've been managing the rest of this the whole time. So, yeah, that was fun. So that was the first one. And then the second one, I didn't realize it was the second one, was a complete disaster. That's where I had John stop by on Skype, and we had a conversation. However, he sounded like a robot the whole time because we had not actually tested the audio all the way through, and it was really sad because I don't know what he said anymore. And I was just going, chatting, had zero clue this was happening, had a whole conversation with him, And at some point in the middle, or after he left, I looked at the chat again and was scrolling through and was like, oh no, oh no, that whole thing was messed up. So that was a audio, I believe it was an audio bitrate mismatch between Skype's NDI output and the NDI input of the Bird Dog Mini. So never did actually end up solving that. But now we've got so many more options for bringing in remote guests. So many more options. It's wonderful. That was, yeah, that was a lot. Did you have the Mini Pro or ISO? I believe that was I believe the ISO wasn't out yet, if I remember correctly. I think only the Pro was out. It's hard to tell because the only clue is the, oh, you can read it. Or at least you can't read it. You can tell that there's only 3 words. So both of these are Pros. Yeah, there's the streaming buttons on both of them, but there's no 4th word that would have said ISO. So I think the ISOs came out later. And I got the ISO. I got the ISO pretty much right after it came out, but started with just the 2 Pros. How long have I been live streaming events? Good question. Let's see. I think I actually have like most of the portfolio up still on the website I was using for that. Let's see if it's, why did my internet go out? Did I forget to renew a domain? That's embarrassing. Something is wrong with the website. No, it is weird. That's weird. Oh well. No, something's wrong with my DNS. The website is there. So what's going on with my DNS? Don't mind me, just gonna hack the DNS here. My DNS is just giving me the wrong IP for that for some reason. Yeah, here's the site. Now it works. This is the site that I use for that work. When did I start? So past videos. Let's see if this actually is. Yeah, the last one I really did was 2019. Because I just started traveling the rest of the year, and then 2020 happened. I've got stuff all the way back to 2014 in here, and these were some very small productions. This is when I started using the ATEM setup more. I think I had some other conferences in here that aren't on the website for some reason. This was, what I brought to this event was actually the original ATEM TV, what do they call it, TV Studio? It's the super thin one with the 4 HDMI, 4 SDI, but like only supported 1080i, not 1080p. Anyway, 2014 is when I started using all the ATEM stuff, and yeah, before that was just like 1 camera stuff. Yeah, 2014. Obviously not all of that was actually live streaming. A lot of it was live recording. So I was trying to avoid all the post-production work by cutting the shows live. Not a lot of things were actually streaming to the internet at that time. But yeah. I remember you had your desk at the bottom of the staircase at some point. Yeah, that was upstairs when they were doing the painting in here. So I finally hired it out. It was like in June or something, June 2020. I was like, I clearly don't have time to finish this work myself. So I paid someone to come in, do all the sheetrock work, which, oh my gosh, let me tell you how much that is not my favorite job. Doing the spray, like the mud and the spray texture, and then painting. They also laid in the floors down here, so I didn't have to do that, which is a lot of chopping of that vinyl wood, LVT, is that what it's called? Doing a little tile bit in there. So yeah, I just paid someone, took 2 weeks, and they finished it off. Maybe it was 3 weeks. And during that time, I moved all the gear upstairs. So I had a couple of weeks of the show up there. Yeah. The retrospective bloopers, yep. My first live stream on YouTube was 2015. That's awesome. Yeah, congrats. Yeah, I wasn't doing these on YouTube. I didn't really consider myself having a YouTube channel until 2018 is when I started like really thinking about at all as it as a channel. But then real videos that I was doing was more like 2019 on YouTube. Since then, about how much did you invest into your present setup? Curious. I don't want to know. I am not. I don't want to know. You can add it up probably from that studio tour video. I'm sure it's a lot. I have sold a lot of stuff too, though, so that helps. Yeah. When will you start a private Zoom group paid so I can join? I don't know. Right now, this is the time that I've got for this because I do have a different job, also my full-time job. So don't know if how much more time I can set aside for this world, doing these streams and the videos. So the Web Presenter HD fixed the need for 2 ATEMs for doing your live stream tutorials. Oh yeah, that would have actually solved the problem. I didn't come to that workflow for that reason, but yes, that does. Because the reason that I was using 2 ATEMs was so that I could show the multi-view of one on the stream. And I could have looped the HDMI out back in to the input, but then anytime I show the multi-view, it would do the tunnel effect. Whereas now if I show the multi-view, there's no tunnel vision because this ATEM is not the one streaming. This is the one, it's just got HDMI out into the Web Presenter. So now I can toggle between HDMI out or multi-view out of that HDMI port. So yeah, that would have worked. That's the same answer I give my wife when she asks how much does that cost. You don't want to know. I don't even want to know. Yes. The best blooper was while your electricity cut off and the live streaming continued. Hopefully that is still the case here right now. I think I have everything I need running on batteries. It should stay up if my electricity goes off right now. Some of the lights would turn off, but I think the stream would be up. It's been a while since we've tested that though, so I might have to put that to the test. Yeah, ATEM's lineup has really changed the way you can stream and record in the last 2 years. I know. I mean, like I said, I've been using the ATEMs since 2015. That's when I got the TV Studio HD, but the mini stuff has really changed it. Have I tested the DJI mic or am I planning to? I did a couple weeks ago do a quick demo here. I haven't done a full video yet. I just bought it because I was curious about it though. I actually brought it with me to NAB and then never used it because the handheld mic I was using was great. It worked totally great. I have monthly power outages. UPS backup is essential. Mine isn't quite monthly, but it does tend to happen in the winter. Unplug the power again, see if the UPS works. Problem is now I have things on multiple outlets, so I would have to run around to a few different places to unplug everything properly. But the main rack is definitely on a battery, so yeah. I should just go into the closet and just flip the main breaker and see what happens. Sometime. Do it live. Pull the plug. Okay. That was fun. Yeah. I didn't realize that my second stream was that massive NDI fail, but that was fun. Thing I learned there was, and that's actually influenced how I have the chat now. Big thing I learned there was I need to always have an eye on the comment section at the most current. So what problem on that stream was that the way I was showing the chat on the screen was by having that chat window, and if I had scrolled up, it pauses there. So I couldn't see any new stuff happening. And I was doing that so I could answer the questions in order, but that meant that I couldn't see anything that was going wrong in real time. So that's again why I've changed to this mode where the reason I ask you to put start the message with Q is so that it filters into this one that I do scroll. But then over here is the real time. So all the new stuff is down here, so I can always keep an eye on what's happening in real time, like this super chat from Graham. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the help. My work is so much easier because of what you've taught me. I love to hear it. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. The Tuesday trash pickups used to be fun. What was that when your web presenter was streaming, whereas it's showing off? Oh, okay, yeah. So this was a weird thing that happened at NAB. Let's talk a little bit about NAB, actually. We've just blown right past the now 90-minute mark, but we're going to keep going. We're going to talk about a little bit about some of the streams I did from NAB. So I did a couple live things from there. I started with 10 a.m. as the show floor opened. I did a stream actually on Instagram Live the night before, very brief to test it, from the big massive YOLO Box Max. And then the next day I did one directly from the YOLO Box from the YOLO Box using that bonded network connection. So that was an interesting experiment, which also failed because the battery of that device failed. We're not even on the device. It was just a battery pack. And then I did another one of from the hotel room, which worked fine because I had things were much more calm in the evening when I was back up at the room. And now we're here. So, the one I hid the one from the Epiphan booth because I was like the audio. I just didn't want people. I didn't want YouTube recommending it. The one I did on, I think it was Wednesday, I did an interview at the Epiphan booth, and they mixed the show, and they pushed it to my studio, but we had an audio mismatch again, because I didn't test the Epiphan into the Mage well. Something was wrong with that link, so the audio was just a mess. It's fine on their channel. You can go watch it on their channel, but I hid the one from mine because I didn't want YouTube recommending it. Yeah, things that worked well from that. So the microphone that I had, Sennheiser MD46, very, very directional microphone. It cut out a lot of the noise that you just couldn't hear. I liked that microphone a lot. The wireless thing that I brought for it is the also Sennheiser wireless interview kit. That worked great at very short range. One of the problems, which I didn't have any audio monitoring on when I was doing this, but the stream I did at the YOLO Live booth, I at one point walked away from the camera to see how far the wireless links would hold up. And it turns out the HDMI held up the entire time as I walked around. The audio did not. Audio cut out almost immediately as I walked away from the booth. So the range on that Sennheiser, not good. Also, I'm sure the amount of interference in that hall was a lot. So the range is probably better when it's not in the middle of that noisy RF environment. But the HDMI link worked flawlessly the whole time. I love it. So that was nice. That was the new Cosmos C1 from Hollyland, which they did send me a while ago to do a video about, and I still haven't done a proper video, but I've been testing it and things like this. So yeah, everyone was like, audio is gone, and I didn't have my phone with me because it was busy providing the internet connection to look at the comments, which again, I always look at the comments. But I was still pretty happy with the Sennheiser wireless kit because, yeah, wireless range was short, but the quality was good. So what I should have done was had that receiver on the wireless camera. That way I was always close to it and it would send both audio and video wirelessly. So that would have been the better solution for that. The Cosmos C1 was great. Yeah. The stream from my hotel room was fine because I was then in a better controlled environment. My internet connection from up there was totally fast enough, which I was super surprised about. That was my SIM card directly in the YOLO box. It worked great. Yeah, what didn't work? Let's see. The wireless mic dropped out. Okay, the way I was doing those was I was pushing, again, from the YOLO box into my studio. That way I get the chat overlays and all that kind of stuff. And integrated with the rest of the show. the weak link there, so that feed into my studio worked fine. And the one of the reasons was because what I noticed was happening was if I was doing speed tests on my phone on the show floor, and I was getting like 300 down, 50 up from my phone's 5G. I was like, that's awesome, great, no problem. And as soon as I connect to my hotspot on the phone and try from my computer, the speeds were really low. And I think what's happening is the carriers are like, oh, we're going to deprioritize the tethering connection because we don't want you to sync your Dropbox over the conference cell antennas. So that was the mismatch. So anytime I had a tethering connection, it didn't work great. But I actually brought a second SIM card with me to the show and put it directly into the YOLO box, because what that does is the carriers see it as a phone. So that meant the YOLO box did get the great speeds. It's not 5G, it is only 4G, but still 4G speeds were like 50 down, 20 up, which is great. But when I was doing speed test tethering, it was like 1 megabit up. It was terrible. So tethering the YOLO box on my phone would not have worked, but putting the SIM card in worked great. So that is something to keep in mind. Of course, that depends on what carrier you're using and whether they're going to be deprioritizing tethering connections. So worth doing some tests. So that part was great. Pushing from that into the studio worked. The video feed going in was, I mean, you tell me if you notice any problems with it, but it was, as far as I could tell, it was fine. That was not the weak link. Where things did start to fall apart was when I needed to get the return feed from my studio. So on my computer, I open up VLC, I pull up my little RTSP encoder to be able to look at the multi-view and also hear what's on the program, and then also control it with the Stream Deck emulator on the computer. So, I can go and pull up my, where is it? I can go pull up my companion buttons on my computer. And this is what I was doing on the show. So, I'm talking to my local thing, right? It's like I'm right here. So these buttons are very responsive right now. When I'm on a very, very slow connection, you can see each of them takes a second to appear, which also means if I press a button, it may take a while to actually go and send that message. So that was one of the problems. I was like, okay, time to start the show. Let's go over to this menu, change that page, press the web presenter on air. I couldn't tell if I had actually pressed it because it took a couple of seconds for the button to turn pink like that. And I could barely see the multi-view. And that was because my computer was tethering to my phone's connection, so I was on the really slow data. So that's something I need to figure out a better solution for when I'm in a bad network environment. I don't know if a USB LTE modem would appear the same way to the carriers like a native device, or if it would look like a tethering connection. So I should try that next time. Plug that into the computer and give my computer its own data connection. So that was one of the problems. So that was why some of the glitches were happening, because I was like, I can't tell if I push the button. So anyway, it was fun. Learned some things. Things mostly worked. It was fun to chat and test things out. How much data was I using? It ended up actually, so I bought my Mint SIM is a 15 gig a month plan, which I just kept on the same plan. And that was the Mint SIM that I actually put into the YOLO box. So by the end of the show, the day I left, I got a notice that I had run out of data. So perfect timing. Also, that was just the plan I've been using on my phone since the plan started on April 18th. So I'd been using it for a while. I used under 15 gigs for sure for that on the YOLO box for all those streams. And then the other SIM was the AT&T SIM, which I put into my phone. And I also ran that one out. That was the one that was tethering to my computer. So I was looking at the multi-view a lot. And I believe I got a 15 gig or 20 gig plan for that. So I used a bit of data on that. 4G router, yeah, again, it depends on how it appears to the carriers. If they're like, oh, this is not a phone, we're going to do fancy things to the data. What about a site where you would see multi-view encoded via WebRTC and a custom companion UI? That might be a better solution. So what I've been doing is RTSP feeds, which on good network connections are fine, but yeah, it does mean that. Oh, I actually did scale it down to 720 because that helps a ton. Normally that encoder is set to 1080, and but yeah, I switched it down to 720, and that worked a lot better. But doing something that is even able to adapt even more is probably a better option. The question is just how do I get that in a way that I can rely on? So like right now, my computer is set to reboot every night, which has helped a ton, and OBS comes back up automatically and loads all the scenes properly. I don't know if I don't think that would. I don't think I can guarantee that working in like Chrome, loading up a web page, like a video.ninja WebRTC call or something. So, yeah. iPad with a SIM card and a VLC client on the iPad. That would solve one of the problems, and maybe I do the side-by-side view of the companion buttons or something. Could work. I don't have an iPad with a SIM card. Yeah. Have I tried Dex or other Android desktop solutions? That way you just need a Nextbook or similar. Nope. Just tuned in. Thanks for joining. I was wondering if you've had any hands-on experience with the new Blackmagic HyperDeck Shuttle HD. Any thoughts? I did get a chance to play with it at the show, but that's it. I don't have one yet myself. I did actually order it because I'm curious enough to try it. And I want a HyperDeck at home anyway for the home studio. So, yeah, it seems like if you're not familiar with HyperDecks, it's worth doing some research into the HyperDeck family as a whole, because it is ultimately a HyperDeck, which means things like it's really finicky about the video formats it supports, encoding data from a computer and loading it into an SD card. You have to be very precise about the formats. Resolve has presets for everything, but it's very picky. You can't mix frame rates or resolutions on the clips. So it's worth knowing all those things about HyperDecks in general. But other than that, it is a HyperDeck in a different form factor with a nice wheel. And the wheel, it does feel very nice. It's a nice way to control it. The other very cool feature they added is the teleprompter thing, which I never expected that, but it's very cool. And I did try that out a little bit. There's a special mode you can put it into, which is how I would always use it, which is if you push the jog and shuttle. Let me see if I can find it on the screen here. It's here. There it is. So yeah, jog and scroll. If you push those two buttons together, it goes into a special mode where the wheel adjusts the scrolling speed. So instead of like just being at a fixed speed and start and stop, you can turn it a little bit and then let go, and it'll be scrolling at that speed. And if you turn it a little bit more, it'll then start scrolling faster. You can also go back to the center to have it scroll slower and slower and stop, and eventually reverse if you want. That is definitely how I would always use it, because that's essentially how I always end up using my iPad teleprompter. Is I want it to most of the time scroll, but then every now and then go faster or slower as I'm reading the text. So I would pretty much always have one hand on it as I'm controlling it for myself and just be using it in that mode. Very cool. Yeah. I'll do more tests and videos on it and stuff too once I actually get mine. I use my 4G router in my sailboat for IPTV. It works way better than sharing from the phone. Cool. That's good. Yellowbox is a hyped up cell phone. I mean, that's one way to think about it. I don't know if I would say hyped, because it does have things that cell phones don't have. For example, multiple HDMI inputs. So that is something that most phones don't have. But yes, it is a large cell phone with multiple HDMI inputs and custom software where you don't have to worry about the phone acting like a phone most of the time. Is putting the series of dashes in your chat window just for visual reference on what chats have been read through, or does it trigger a bot to do a function? Good question. Actually, that's inserted when I press the button for the stinger. So on my Stream Deck, I have, let me just go and show you the button here. On my Stream Deck, I have this button for the stinger, and that does runs the stinger, but it also posts into the YouTube chat those series of dashes. And that is for me so that when I'm looking back at the video, I can, to do the timestamps, which I try to do right after them, don't always do, and I'm still behind on last week's. It's so that I can see when I made a chapter marker, sort of. So it's just for my visual reference later. The ability to transfer the teleprompter text to it over FTP while live seems awesome. Yeah, the big question is, what does it take for it to recognize the updates you've made to it? I'm going to experiment with that because I don't think it's the same as like live editing Google Docs, for example, but you definitely can do some amount of updating of the files while it's running. I'm curious about the network connection on the Hyperdeck shuttle. Does it also lose the ATEM connection sometimes? I'm sure you will find out. I will find out. Yeah, sometimes I've noticed in my ATEM software control, the Hyperdecks get lost, and I don't know why. Although, now I'm trying to think, when have I noticed that last? Well, they're not connected right now, but I don't remember if I connected them previously. It was happening a lot to the original Hyperdeck. I think it's been better on the newer ones, so cross your fingers. Can I use a TV Studio HD to output different signals to projector and TVs? Projector is a feed of camera 1, TVs feed from a laptop. Yeah, so the TV Studio HD does have aux outs. That's what that's called. It's called aux out. If you look at, this is actually still on the website, so we can go look at the specs for it. Original TV Studio HD. Do they have the rear of it on this, or do we have to go into the specs? We have to go into the tech specs, TV Studio HD, and then if you look on the back, you'll see there is, so this is the big difference between the new constellations. The outputs of this, these are program feed. I've never used these outputs. They're for the program feed with the talkback audio for camera operators. I've never used those. Then there's the multi-view out and the program out, and HDMI is only multi-view out. But then there's this one special one. This is aux output. This one you can choose any of the inputs. I can't remember if you can choose multi-view or not, but I'm actually using that right now for this show, so I can go look. Here's my TV Studio HD. Here is the one aux out. I cannot choose multi-view. I can choose any of the cameras, and I can choose any of the other internal sources. So what I have mostly used this for in the past when I was using this for doing conferences is actually because I want to record the main show. I would record the program feed from the SDI out into a Hyperdeck, and I would use the aux out for putting the slides on the projector behind the venue. So slides would be coming in on like camera 2. I would choose aux out camera 2, and then I could control what's on the projector. That also meant I could switch what's on the projector behind the speaker from their slides to like the conference logo. And that way you don't get they yank out their cord and it flickers and turns blue and then waits 5 seconds. The projectors run from my box, and I choose when their slides appear. That's what I mostly use it for. But yeah, you can choose any of the cameras can go out the aux port. Biggest difference between that and the new Constellation is that we're going to take a look at that really quick. The new Constellation, which I'm very excited about, even the small one, if we go look at the outputs here, they work totally differently. So there are 6 SDI outs, and they're all assignable. They're all program audio, but they're all assignable. And then there's one multi-view out. No program out, no SDI multiple pass-throughs or anything, or program outs or anything. So yeah, you get to choose what goes out on each of those 6. So in the software control for that, there will be multiple up here. So if we go back to like the ATEM Extreme, you can see how I have outputs now. I have output 1 and 2. There will be 6 on that TV Studio HD 1ME. Yeah, there's some question about how live the updates on the Hyperdeck will occur. Have I ever used MIDI? It's fantastic Hyperdeck emulator on a MacBook Pro. I haven't. I'm sorry. I am using a different app on the iPad right now, though, which I haven't even shown you all these clips I recorded from NAB yet because we've just been chatting so much, and I want to, at some point, show you these. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else in here in the chat that I want to get to. I'm sorry if I've skipped your messages. I tried to get to these. I don't always have a good answer for some of them. Yeah, we are wondering if it will be able to play generic H.264. Not sure on that one. Okay. I do want to talk a little bit about some stuff I saw at NAB. We're just going to go for apparently 2 full hours today. So, NAB. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff there. I have a couple of clips I've recorded just to share here. Where do I want to start? Let's just start with the expo hall. The expo hall was massive. There were like 2 full rooms of stuff that were on this wing, and then there was a whole other room that was a whole half-mile away or something. It was like, it's still attached to the same building. It's just huge. This is just me zipping around, wandering through. This is from the Insta360, and this is Insta360 doing that whizzing mode, which is a lot of fun. And it was honestly pretty overwhelming how much stuff was there to look at. I did not even know where to start. So I tried to hit some of the vendors that I have worked with. I tried to go visit things I knew that were there that I wanted to see. Definitely missed some of the stuff that I saw other people posting about. I was like, oh, that seems cool. I should have gone and talked to them about it. Yeah, there's the Blackmagic booth. They had like a green screen set up there, which was just like a person sitting there the whole time, and on the green screen, which sounds like a rough job. Getting motion sickness, sorry. Yeah, I'm sure that's a little bit rough on that giant screen. But yeah, that was the expo hall. It was so much stuff there. One of the interesting things that I did not expect to see was the Atomos booth. So they were right next to the Yellow Box booth, and they had 2 totally different things. So this is the switcher. This is the Atomos, the new Atomos plus Mavis solution for live switching, but it's all cloud-based. So, okay, this is like, see how he's moving that fader on the one side, but the other one's moving? They're only connected over the internet. They're connected over the cloud. So both of those iPads are connected to the same cloud account, and then it's all just running the same program. So you can do the cuts. Let me actually, I want to show you the beginning of this again. Watch when he's tapping the screen. When he taps the screen on one, it's actually sending a command to the cloud to cut the angle, and the feed that you're seeing on that iPad is the return feed from the cloud. And it's that fast. It is so responsive. It is, I don't know what they're doing there, but it's their own proprietary video protocol they've created for that. It seems to work very well. The whole idea of that is you can distribute everybody who's involved in a production anywhere in the world, because all you need is iPads connected into the same account. And I'm optimistic for this because it seemed like it was working very, very well. So that was very cool to see that. The other part of that is how those cameras get into that feed. And they also have a solution for that, which was the new Atomos Shogun and the add-on you get for your older Ninjas. That was also then tied into Frame.io. So this is a Ninja with their separate little box on the back, which adds those antennas to give it a network connection. What we just did there was hit record, and then a couple of seconds later, the video appears in your Frame.io account. And that is just, frankly, amazing. So that was a short clip, so it was pretty quick to do. But the whole idea there is, the whole idea with that is you hit record. if your box has an internet connection, it'll start streaming it so you can use it in the switcher immediately, but it also starts streaming the recording as it's going, so that by the time you're done, then you hit stop, and it only takes a couple more seconds to finalize that file and then send it over to Frame.io for immediate editing. Very cool, very useful for distributed workflows. I haven't used a ton of the Atomos stuff before, but this is exciting. I'm curious to see where this goes. Yeah, so maybe I'll get a chance to check out some of their stuff since I do have a contact there. We will find out. Yeah, 360 is cool, just like a drone video. Can't fly a drone in there, but I can wave a selfie stick around. That was a Insta360 on a selfie stick. No XLR inputs. If I remember correctly, that is the case. I think the assumption is that you're running your audio into the camera. So like your camera would have XLR inputs because this is made for bigger cameras. But I don't think the device itself had XLR. I'm, again, not totally sure. I didn't get super good photos of it, but we will find out soon enough. Insta360 makes a new selfie stick, up to 3 meters long and 36 centimeters compacted. That sounds like the one I have. Sounds like the one I don't have it here, but it sounds like the one I was using there. Yeah, that was just me waving the selfie stick around in the air like an idiot. Yeah. So what else happened there? Oh, I posted this on my Instagram story. At the YC Onion booth, they have this little tiny microphone, which I'm trying to figure out what it actually is, because it seems like it exists under a couple different names. But the one that they had is on B&H, and I think I put the link already below. This thing is interesting. It is, I don't want to like oversell it right now, but I tried it out and it worked surprisingly well considering how cheap the microphone is and how small it is. So watch this. This is the tiniest little microphone, but it has a trick. It actually has noise cancellation built in, so check this out. Now the noise cancellation is turned on and it's a lot quieter. It's kind of amazing how well this works. Yeah, so the before and after of no noise cancellation in the expo hall with noise cancellation later, it still sounded good and a lot of that noise went away. So here, I'll drop this link in. Tiny noise cancellation mic. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what it sounds like in a studio either. Like that was just me on the show floor trying it out, messing around. That was connected into my phone over the Lightning port. The one downside is there's no 1/8 inch out on that receiver, so you can't really use it with a camera. It is made for phones. Seems cool. That was kind of fun. Got to try that out. Haven't seen a lot of microphones with noise cancellation built in, other than the Tula has it also, which is kind of cool. What else happened? Oh, I got a chance to. So I was taking the monorail to and from the expo hall every day because my hotel was like a couple stops down. Maybe it was only one stop down, but it was one really long ride on that segment. Anyway, I was taking the monorail in, which drops you off at the convention center, and you walk in the sort of front door area with all the huge parking lot. But I also heard about the Tesla tunnel they have, which takes you from one end of the convention center to the other, which I didn't realize just how big it is, but it's really, really big. Walking from the North Hall, the new North Hall, all the way into the west that we were in. It's a really long walk. So there is an underground tunnel that you can ride, you can get in and ride in a Tesla. And this is what it looks like. It's this weird glowy green lit tunnel with these decorations on the side, and you're in a little car driving. I will say, I feel like this is way overhyped. Like seriously overhyped. This is probably the least efficient way to move people around the convention center because it's just a driver. It's not even a self-driving car. There's an actual person in that car driving one person, maybe two if you happen to time it right. And you're in these cars, which are all independently controlled. And it's like, just build a train. Just build a train. Like it turns out when you're putting a bunch of cars in a tunnel where the only option is they have is to go straight or stop. The most efficient way of handling that is to connect all the cars together and make them all move together. Yeah. Oddly, the boring tunnel is rather boring. It was cool. It was shiny. It was colorful. Yeah. Uh, they're not allowed to use autopilot in those yet. I feel like if anywhere you should be allowed to use autopilot, it's in those, because there is only one way to go, and it is straight, and it is the most controlled place to drive a car. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It was silly. I just had to do it at one point. So I had walked all the way up to the other hall at one point to just go check it out. And I was like, well, now I guess I can take the car back to the main one now. That's cool. Yeah. Okay, one of the other fun things they had there was this Tron motorcycle. And I want to play you this clip, which I'm going to tell you how I did this clip after you see it. But I'm just going to, before I run it, say all of the audio in this is my audio that I created for it. So it came with audio, and I did not trust their audio to play on the stream. So I replaced the music, and I added my own sound effects. So that was pretty fun. So you get on this little Tron motorcycle, and then you just sit there, and this camera whizzes around you, and then the giant LED screen behind you is synced up with the camera. So it's changing what's on the screen, also changing based on where the camera's pointing to create a virtual set, essentially. Very, very cool. So they just had that running the entire show, and it was just a line of people just getting their ride on the thing. And then at the end, you like hop off and you scan a QR code to go download your file. It was cool. It was very cool to see that. But yeah, I went and swapped out the music. I added the little vroom sound and the little laser shot, and when the lights pass over, I went and found little whoosh sounds to so that it looked more interesting. I did this in about 15 minutes yesterday, so not a lot went into it, but did point out how effective sound design is. Because my first thing was, I'm just going to replace the music and show it on the stream tomorrow. And I was looking at it, I was like, this is not, like, it's missing something. Like, it's clearly missing. It feels like it's not really, you don't feel like you're there. Like, you don't feel like the music is connected to what you're seeing. So I wanted to actually make it more of a connection. So that's when I started adding in the little whoosh effects and making it match a little better. So that was fun. Short depth of field is pretty effective on the motorcycle shot. Yeah, it was fun. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Oh, how did the meet and greet with Doug and Joseph go? That was great. Definitely was a long hike out to that hotel. It was literally just across the street from the convention center, but man, that place is huge. And you had to cross a really big street. I learned later that you can actually cross that street inside by going to the other hall, and then only have to cross one street to get to that hotel, which we'll do next time. Or we just find another place inside, because honestly, there was plenty of space inside the convention hall we could have just had a meet and greet. It was, but yeah, it was fun. It was just a very informal hangout and chat with everybody, and it was great to meet a bunch of people. So it was a lot of fun. We will, I'm sure, do it again next year. Any idea what the robotic crane for the light cycle shot is? No, but I think it was probably that one of those logos on that last screen. It looks very anime. New Marvel movie from Aaron. Yeah. I liked. Oh yeah. Oh No Coffee came and met up. I like that we were outside the center. Okay, well that's good to know. It was a break from that, but it was a bit of a hike. I guess it was my fault for scheduling that back to back with the onstage stream with Nikki Sun. So I was just like scrambling to get over there really fast. Next time I will put an hour in between those. Yeah. Am I going to join the Amazon Livestream Society, talk Amazon streaming products? Maybe. I tried one. I actually did one stream on Amazon a while ago, but I did it also to YouTube, and that's when I realized you can't really do that. It just doesn't work well because what the Amazon audience expects is very different from what the YouTube audience expects. So that was the only one I did. I think it was about the Yola box. Anyway, I might. It could be interesting. I might try it again. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, here, this is relevant to Tallboy said you're almost running. I just walk very fast. I just walk extremely fast. Very fast walker. This question is related to that video playback I was just doing. Is there a way to set companion rules to change the input after the hyperdeck is set to play a single clip and not using the delay feature as my clips vary in size? I noticed that. I've also had that problem. I don't know of a way to do it. I don't know of a trigger you can use. Let's see. Let's go take a look right now, though. If anything, it would be a trigger, which would be feedback based on hyperdeck. Hyperdeck, let's see. Status, I guess you could trigger it when it stops. I don't know what the string value is for that. Or you could, can you do count down time code so you could switch it like 5 frames before the end or something? That's my only thought here. So to count down in countdown time code. See, the problem is I don't know if it's counting to a specific actual time code, which you would need, or if it's like a offset. This is where I would experiment though. Try this out, and maybe I'll think about this for next time and see if I can think of anything. But yeah, transport stats would be the other one. So like if, I don't know, maybe the value is stop, I'll have to experiment to find out what the value actually is. But that way, when it stops, you could have companion run, actually just do the auto transition, right? So do the auto transition. That way it would switch back to whatever's in preview. Might work. You might get a black frame, unfortunately. So that's why I was looking for the timecode option. But the way I was doing those clips was actually in a totally different app. This app is how I was queuing these up. So this is connected over HDMI into my ATEM, and this will output that video clip full screen. And the cool thing about this app, this is called Live App, which is really hard to Google for, it turns out. The cool thing is that if you tell this app which input on the ATEM it is connected to, it can autoplay. So as soon as I cut to input 7, this app starts running the clip. And when this reaches the end, this app will send the auto transition to the ATEM and it'll cut back to whatever's in preview. So that's how I was cutting back to me after the clips were playing, even though they were all different lengths. So two totally different ways of handling it. But I like the iPad because it's just a little bit easier to like quickly load things into here. You just quickly add files from your camera roll. This is also where you've got like the draw, so you can like draw on the screen, which is kind of cool. Is that? Yeah, it is connected because it knows about doing chroma key and stuff too, or Luma key. Doesn't X Keys have a built-in solution for that? Ooh, I don't know. That was one of the booths I missed. Yeah. New job description, camera choreographer. I know, right? Yeah. The bike did not lean in a turn. They could have done that. I think that was a safety thing. I think that's why. Because they also, when you got on, they made a point of being like, don't shake the bike. Like, you can lean, but don't shake the bike. But yeah, clearly you would want it to actually tilt more. But I think that was just for safety because it was just like hundreds of people doing that throughout the whole weekend. New intro for your show, slow motion mic. Maybe I'll do that. I auto dissolve my key in the. Yeah, if you're doing a macro for it and you actually know the lengths of all your clips, then totally that works. But like for this example, and I think what the question was about earlier was if you don't know ahead of time how long the clips all are, then it can be a lot of work to just set all that up with having to program in the timings. Have I looked at the Zcam IP Man Gemini for bringing back DSLRs into the studio from the road? Nope, I haven't. Haven't heard of that one. Also, I don't know about this one. Have you new info on the wireless timecode functionality? It's the new ATEM Connect. ATEM Connect. Do you mean so? One of the other wireless, the only wireless timecode thing I knew of was the D80. I did stop by their booth. They had some cool stuff. I don't think I have that video on here. But yeah. Some of the crane camera ops I know are practically that already. Yeah. No joke. Cool. Atomos Connect. Yes. Okay. No, I forgot to. I didn't ask them too much about the wireless timecode stuff from that bit, so I'll have to dig into that later, I guess. Does the YOLOBox Mini do network bonding? Not exactly, but you can sideload Speedify onto it, which sort of does bonding. It's not quite the same as a actual bonded modem, hardware modem, though. Speaking of YOLOBoxes, any plans to have a guest interview mode with YOLOBox? I really, really, really want them to add this. I've been bugging them for a while about it. The two different ways I can think of it working would be one to build in video.ninja. So that is, because that's a nice tool for managing all these video feeds and remote guests into WebRTC, so it's very fast. The other way to do that is using the Zoom SDK, which also is totally doable. So like you can use the Zoom SDK to essentially build your own Zoom-like experience into your own apps. And because YOLOBox is an Android app, they could use the Android SDK. And like, how cool would it be to just be like, take a YOLOBox, like take your YOLOBox, start a Zoom call, send the numbers to somebody else, and they go to their YOLOBox, punch in those numbers, and now they're just a remote camera into yours, connected over Zoom. And because it's using the Zoom SDK, you wouldn't have the whole Zoom interface like you would on a computer. It would be the raw video feeds. Be very, very cool, right? So I'm hoping they can pull that off somehow. It's going to require a little bit of coordination, of course, but yeah, that is very, very exciting, very likely to happen. Photo Joseph is mad keen for testing the multi-YOLOBox feature. Yeah. YOLO Cloud will have guest functions soon. That's a good call too. They've been doing some cool stuff with the cloud stuff too. So they actually have two, and I always forget which one's which. They have a YOLO Live dashboard and YOLO Live Cloud. One of them is which one's the new one? Now I'm forgetting. So, okay, dashboard. This one is set up your account, add a video source, create a live event. This is actually for like producing a stream online. I'm gonna do like more dig into this more, but it'll actually give you like a web page to play it. And then the other one is this one, which is more like what I see on my YOLOBox. So I can again go create an event, and then join it like I would on the YOLOBox, but it's all a web version of it. And then to actually get video into it, I push from my YOLOBox. So where is that? Streaming health. I would go into my YOLOBox, pull up this now same event. It would show up in that list, and I could push video to it. So when I am streaming from the YOLOBox, I can also go into here and see it, and actually see like the bitrate coming in, and see the chat messages over here too. So that's kind of cool. Interesting things coming down the pipe from them. Yep. If YellowBox had a browser input, video.ninja would be a given. It does now have browser input. I haven't tested it with video.ninja yet. So you can, sorry, it's not browser input, it's browser overlay. So it probably wouldn't work for this. Because it doesn't show up as a video source. It shows up just on top of everything for doing graphics like the chat. But we at least know that it has some ability to run a browser, so we could probably at some point grab video.ninja into it. StreamBridge can receive from some Blackmagic cameras now in new firmware. Did you hear about that at the booth? I didn't ask them too much about that, but it's yeah, it's for the cameras that have the streaming built in, or the web presenter can stream to it. But it's all about using that for remote camera feeds, remote ingestion. So that's why it sends the tally back and like the talkback audio too, which is very cool. What camera am I using for the overhead shots? This is the Sony A6400. So older camera, but works fine. Thank you, Drew, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. I think we're done here. I think we're gonna wrap up. It's been over 2 hours now. Thank you all for being here. I did not. Oh, one thing before we go. Oh, it's probably too late. Now I'm going to ask everybody to go. No, we'll do it. Okay. One thing before we go. I am soon going to be traveling again. And while I'm traveling, I am going to be streaming. So I am curious to know some feedback from you. So go ahead, and there's a link in the chat, which is, it should be, I'll put it on the screen here. It should be this. Scan this QR code, click the link in the chat, or just type it in from what you see on the screen here. This is John's new tool, H2R Graphics Cloud. I can't remember what he's calling it. But it's the polling feature. So we're going to run a couple of quick polls in here. So go ahead and load this up. Scan the QR code right now, or take a picture or pause or whatever, so I can cut back and load up the poll. Because I would like to know what you think I should bring on my next trip. So we're going to do this. We're going to, where is it? Where did I put it? Here it is. What should I bring on the next trip? YellowBox Pro, which means I get 2 cameras, and I can also take that HDMI cable and show my computer screen. Or should I bring the YellowBox Mini, which means I'm bringing a lot less stuff, and I'm not traveling for NAB. Again, this is like a work trip. I'm going to just bring stuff in so I can stream on the weekends. The Mini would mean I can still do the streams. I just can only stream 1 camera. I'm not going to bring it anytime. Also, no way. The whole goal is small. So should I keep going with a 2 camera plus possibly 3 as a computer screen so I can share stuff on my screen? Or should I just keep it simple and go with a 1 camera stream for a while? And yes, while you're doing that, click the like button. Okay, we're going to let the responses trickle in for a little bit longer while we chat. Yeah, okay, so 24 responses. Ooh, we're split down the middle. That's going to be tough. Okay. I know, I'm on the fence about it, because on the one hand, like, the Mini is nice and small. I've got this nice little case for it now. I just wish I could use the USB webcam also in addition to the HDMI. That's the one thing I wish. Then I could do at least a computer and a webcam, or 1 webcam to show you things, and a good camera. But I love how small it is. On the other hand, the YellowBox Pro is what I brought to NAB, and this one is, 3 HDMI ins, which I usually don't actually use all of, but I could at least have my main camera on top of the cage, a wide camera, and my computer screen. I also don't know exactly where I'm going to be streaming from yet, so it might be outside, it might be in my hotel room, it might be in the middle of a volcano. I don't know. We'll find out. But okay, how are we doing on this poll? We've got 36 responses. If you haven't yet, if you missed that, the link is in the chat, but also here I'll put it on the screen again, so you can join at that QR code or at this link. And yes, thanks to John for hooking me up with this early beta access of his new, very cool tool for doing this. All right. I don't know when to stop it. I guess when I think we've got most people. Let's see. Who do we have in the? We've got 110 watching and 41 responses. I usually end up getting around 50% participation rate when I do this for other things. So we're going to stop when this hits 50. Assuming this is still updating. Yes, it is. Thanks, see you at NAM. Maybe. Also for the Yellowbox Mini, not having switching isn't that bad, but we need to use the webcam for picture-in-picture. Exactly, yeah, like that. Oh, I didn't realize it's behind the pole. Move it out of the way. Yeah, even if you couldn't do actual switching, at least having picture-in-picture would be very cool. I could see also using it for like the computer screen into the HDMI and then one camera. Would be very cool. Send in those votes. How are we doing? We've got to 50. Okay. The link's still in the chat. It's not too far back. So yeah. Mini is my vote. I'm interested to know how the Mini handles being on the road. Can the Yellowbox do SRT? No, not yet. Not yet. Another feature request for the list. Gotta go. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us. Oh my god, I can't believe everybody's been staying here so long. This stream has just been rambling. No, it's not totally rambling. I had a plan. I mostly stuck to it. It just took longer than I thought. Okay. Poll. Gonna end this here. It's pretty well now 2-to-1. Almost 2-to-1 Yellowbox Pro. So I can use multiple cameras. Or compared to Yellowbox Mini. Oh, got some more votes coming in for the Mini. I can't remember. Can you change your votes? I don't remember if John updated it to do that yet. Yeah. I guess that's what it's going to be. Yellowbox Pro. Unless I get convinced otherwise this evening when I'm packing. Okay. Next question. There's two parts to this question. The other question is, how should I run the stream next week? Either directly from the Yellowbox, which I almost have never done, only a couple times, or like I did at NAB, pushing from the Yellowbox into my studio into YouTube, which lets me do things like have the normal countdown timer music, show the chats this way, where I get the better filters of the different things, and run the credits at the end and things like that. I'm almost able to do that on the Yellowbox itself now, because with the new web overlay feature, most of that stuff is in the web page that I use in OBS, but it's not quite right. I need to redo some of the sizes for things, because the web view in the Yellowbox is a different size than it is in OBS. So if I go directly from the Yellowbox to YouTube, I'm going to be using the built-in chat on the Yellowbox itself, which hopefully they fixed that 100 message bug. And then it's just like simpler, right? Because I don't have to worry about pulling up my remote multi-view feed from my studio while I'm also in another country. That has that going for it. I'll probably take my SIM card from my phone and just pop it into the Yellowbox for the streams. So, okay, this one is already at 43 responses. This one is winning out. The direct option is winning out here. Oh, and John is back. Nice poll. Oh, can I get a PK cage ready in time for the trip? Unfortunately not. But I do have the, for the Mini, I do have the YC Onion cage that they let me take from the show floor. I vote for direct. Want to see how well it works in the field without the studio support. Happy with you using Yellowbox Chat Direct with the SIM Direct connected to the network. Yeah. Is stream to AWS with a virtual air in studio an option? I don't have enough setup of this workflow to do it virtually yet. A lot of it relies on the hardware in here, so I don't really. There wouldn't be much to show there. Can you do a guest interview with YOLObox while traveling? We'll see now. That would be a good vote for the Pro, which technically did win. Possibly. Do you mean remote guest or in-person guest? Because I might have some in-person guests. How are we doing on this? 49. Let's get those last 6 people in. Really, really close call here. So you could make some arguments to swing the vote here. Remote guests. That sounds like a real challenge. I don't know if I trust my internet enough to do that. While we are waiting for the last couple of votes, why did I replace my GH5 Mark II with the Sony ZV-E10? I wouldn't say I've replaced it, but I have been taking it with me on more trips lately. One of the reasons I brought it with me to Finland was because I wanted a camera that I knew would handle low light and time lapses and being able to photograph the northern lights and all that stuff. And the GH5 Mark II can definitely handle that better than the ZV-E10. So that's why I brought it to Finland. The reason I didn't bring it to NAB and on my last trip was because, well, the Austria trip was a work trip and I didn't want to have a bunch of extra video gear with me. So I tried to take as little as possible, and the YOLObox rig was enough additional gear. The size of these things are really different. So to NAB, I could have taken that one to NAB, but again, as I started putting things in the bags, it just got really big. So that's why I like the ZV-E10, because it's pretty small. Probably I'm going to end up with the ZV-E10 and ZV-1 again on this next trip. Again, because it's a work trip, I'm going to be gone for like almost 3 weeks, and most of which is not going to be doing video work. So I don't want to be carrying a ton around with me that isn't going to be used most of the time. Yep. You know you have an opinion. Yes, vote. Okay, how are we doing? 54. That might be good enough to call it here. Oh my god, wait, it's actually tied. It's actually tied 50-50. Great. Now I don't know what to do. If one more person votes, you can tip it. Wow. Well, I have about 12 hours left, 10 hours left to decide. So, oh, someone tipped it. 50-49. The percents don't quite add up to 100 from the YOLObox to the studio. Okay, we'll see. Maybe I'll just do the opposite, and yeah, we're well within the 1% error rate for a voting system. Okay, so yeah, that was fun. Thanks for playing. Oh, someone tipped it back and tipped it again. Oh my gosh, we're just riding the edge here. 57 responses. I saw it 50-50 again. Now I don't know what to do. Well, you'll find out soon enough what the decision is. Oh, Keith coming in with the super chats. Stream to your studio. Then I can do the confetti. Thank you for the super chats. Oh, and then Drew makes an excellent point. The try both. Fair. I can do one of each. Who says I only have to do one stream a week also? Now Keith is bribing you. Break the tie with super chats. Yeah. Oh, it's just right there. Okay. Yeah, for MFT, the GH5 Mark II has gotten fairly large. The GH6 is nearly bigger than a Canon EOS R body now. Yeah. It's a nice camera. It's definitely a nice camera, but it is not small. Switch over from one to the other. Ooh, that's a fun challenge too. I could do that. I could do like a the thing where I stream to the backup URL on YouTube and then just drop the main stream and see what happens. Could be fun. If I'm not like in the middle of a volcano, maybe I will try that. So we'll see how it goes. All right. That was fun. Thanks for playing. That was a nice preview of John's new polling tool, which I'm excited to use more. maybe we'll try that in the YOLO box web overlay too sometime too. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the super chats. This has been fun. Hopefully the brief recap of the movie was fun. I'll have more coming out about that soon, I'm sure. I'm going to bring a bunch of video with me on the road to edit. And yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for hanging out every week. And we will see you all again next time. Thanks, and yeah, see you later.